Hello, and welcome to Unit 14, Lesson 4, Opacity, Speed Control, and Markers. My name is Dina, and here I will be teaching you about how to adjust the transparency and speed of your video clips, as well as more organizational tools to help you stay on track. These will be especially useful when you start layering tracks and adding transitions later. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So, what opacity means is how opaque something is. Opaque means no light can pass through, meaning it is a solid object, and you cannot see through it. In other words, opacity just means transparency. You can very easily adjust how transparent a video clip is in Vegas, so let me show you how. First, select the video clip you want to adjust. Do you see that little blue tab towards the top? If you hover over it, words should come up next to your cursor and tell you what percentage the opacity currently is. By default, it is always 100%, meaning your video is completely non-see-through. Your cursor also turns into an up-down arrow. All you need to do to adjust the opacity now is to drag that little blue tab. The lower the number is, the more transparent it is. At 0% opacity, it is completely transparent and has in effect disappeared completely. Opacity might seem useless when you only have one track, because of course you want people to see your video, right? If you didn't need a clip, you would just delete it. But opacity can help create some really cool effects and transitions when you involve more tracks in animation. And we can talk about those more in later units. Now, on to speed control. There are 3 ways to do this, and I'll introduce each of them so you can decide which one you like. First, right-click on your selected clip and go all the way down to Properties. In Properties, you can find Playback Rate. Normally, it is at 1. You can speed up or slow down your clip by changing this number, but note that it only goes up to 4 both ways. So for example, if you change it to 2, that means it plays at twice the speed, and 4 means it will play at 4 times the speed. On the other hand, to slow down, 0.5 would be half the original speed, and 0.25 is a quarter of the original speed. You can also speed up and slow down any clip by using the velocity envelope. Yep. Remember velocity from physics class? You can never escape physics either. To use this method, select the clip you want to adjust and right-click. Go to Insert/Remove Envelope, and then choose Velocity. Now you will see a thin horizontal green line, and if you hover over it, it says Velocity, and the up-down arrow shows up, just like the opacity line. The default will be 100%, and the speed will change as you drag it up and down. Dragging it up will make it much faster. As you can see here, it goes all the way up to 1000%, which would be 10 times the original speed. If you bring it down below 100%, it starts to get slower and slower. When velocity reaches 0, there is no speed at all, and the video freezes completely. However, if you take it even lower into the negative numbers, the video starts to play backwards. You can also reverse your whole clip if you right-click and just choose Reverse, which is indicated on your clip by this little reverse arrow on the left-hand side of your clip. But if you use the velocity envelope, you can control the speed of your reverse playback as well. The last way to change the speed of your clip is by using your keyboard. Hold down the Control key while your cursor is at either end of your clip, and you'll see it turn into time stretch with a little wavy line underneath the arrows. Then you can drag the edges directly. Think about it this way. If there is the same amount of content in your clip, but you make the time shorter, then the video will need to speed up in order to be able to show all of the content in the shorter time allowed, right? So the opposite is true as well. If you time stretch drag the clip longer, then the video will play slower. You can stack all of these speed controls to create the exact amount of speed that you want. For example, you can go into Properties, set it to 4 times speed, then come back out and also use the velocity at 200%. And this way it will be 4 times 2, so 8 times the original speed. Another note in speed control, I'd also like to mention the other option where we found the velocity envelope earlier. So if you go back to your clip, right click, insert, remove envelope, there's an option underneath velocity that is freeze frame at cursor. This one is also very useful for when you need to pause your clip at a certain point and want to keep that image on screen. Once you choose that option, it will create a freeze frame, or a paused image, exactly where your timeline cursor was. But still lets you drag the clip to decide how long you want that image there. You will be able to see this change if you have your velocity envelope open as well, the 2 square dots on the green line, but we can talk more about that in the animation lesson. Finally, I want to bring up markers and regions in Vegas. These two can greatly improve your organization and also let you leave notes so you don't forget about what to do where. First up is markers. Markers are kind of like those sticky tabs. You can use them to mark any point anywhere. Just move to your desired spot with the timeline cursor and press M on your keyboard. You can also find it under the Insert tab on the top. Once your marker is created, you will see a space for you to type any notes you might have, or just points of interest that you want to revisit later. You don't even have to name them anything. They will always come with default numbers anyways, if that's enough for you. For example, here I will type add text here, so I know exactly where to go later after I'm done with my rough draft. You can, of course, move these markers by dragging them, and also rename or delete them if you right-click. Next, regions. If you move your cursor up to the top of the timeline, where all the numbers are, you can see the horizontal arrow that shows up next to your cursor. You can click and drag there to create a selection, which will highlight the timeline in blue and be marked by little yellow triangles. Once you have your selection, you can go up to Insert Region, or just press R on your keyboard. And that will create your region. You can also just press R wherever, and then drag the tabs for the region to where you want them to be. They work a lot like the markers, so you can name them, rename them, and delete them the same way. Regions can help you separate out chunks of footage if you have different segments or chapters in your work. They also help with exporting multiple videos at once, but that lesson will come much later in Unit 18 when we talk about sharing and exporting. Alright, and that is it for Unit 14. At this point, you should have all the tools you need to create a great rough draft that outlines your entire project, lays out the order of everything, and is now ready to be polished and refined into your final video. To learn more about how to add exciting details like B-roll, text and titles, transitions, and more, follow me along to Unit 15, Intermediate Editing. I am excited for you to see how much more we can do in editing to make your final project the best it can be. I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye!